Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Around the World. The ongoing Israel-Hamas conflict has once again erupted into violence despite a fragile ceasefire deal brokered by the US. As Israeli airstrikes kill 104 people in Gaza, both sides are trading blame for violating the ceasefire. This raises pertinent questions regarding the dynamics of international peacekeeping, ceasefire enforcement, and the role of global powers in conflict resolution. In this analysis, we will examine the implications of this recent escalation and its broader geopolitical significance. Background to the conflict. The Israel-Palestine conflict has deep historical roots, primarily revolving around territorial disputes, national identity, and religious significance. The most recent escalation began after the 7th October 2023 Hamas attack on Israel, which killed over 1,200 Israelis and took more than 250 hostages. In response, Israel launched extensive airstrikes on Gaza, resulting in the deaths of tens of thousands of Palestinians. The US brokered a ceasefire on 10th October 2025 in an attempt to halt the violence. However, the ceasefire has remained fragile, marked by periodic violations from both sides. Ceasefire violations and the escalation. On 29th October 2025, the Israel military resumed airstrikes in Gaza after a Palestinian militant attack killed one Israeli soldier. Despite this, both Israel and Hamas continue to claim their commitment to the ceasefire. The Israeli government, led by Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, asserted that airstrikes were a response to Hamas's violation, specifically citing an attack on Israeli soldiers. In contrast, Hamas condemned Israel's actions, arguing that the Israeli airstrikes constituted a clear breach of the ceasefire agreement. Israel's justification for the strikes revolves around self-defense, stating that Hamas's actions were direct provocations. Hamas, on the other hand, denies responsibility for the attack and claims it is committed to the ceasefire terms, including the release of hostages. This back-and-forth accusation highlights the fragility of ceasefire agreements, especially when both sides hold divergent views on what constitutes a violation. International reactions and diplomacy. The role of the international community in peacekeeping and ceasefire enforcement is critical in such conflicts. In this case, US President Donald Trump, a vocal supporter of Israel, reiterated that the ceasefire was not at risk, even though Israeli airstrikes continued in Gaza. Trump emphasized Israel's right to self-defense, stating that when attacked, Israel has the right to hit back. The international community, including the United Nations and European Union, has expressed concern over the mounting civilian casualties in Gaza. However, diplomatic efforts have been stymied by the lack of a unified approach to handling the conflict, with some countries aligning with Israel, while others express stronger support for Palestinian autonomy and rights. The role of the United States. The United States has been a key ally of Israel throughout the conflict, providing military, financial, and diplomatic support. This relationship has been a major factor in the ongoing violence and the failure of ceasefires to hold. US diplomatic pressure has been exerted on both parties to adhere to the ceasefire agreement, but the effectiveness of such efforts is questionable. Geopolitical implications. This conflict has far-reaching implications for global security. The repeated breakdown of ceasefires in Gaza poses a threat not only to regional stability but also to broader international peace. As Israel and Palestine continue to engage in this deadly cycle, the international community's role becomes more critical in addressing the root causes of the conflict. Additionally, this conflict has significant implications for India as it shapes its foreign policy and relations with key Middle Eastern nations, including Israel and Palestine. Conclusion: the recent escalation of violence in Gaza underscores the complexities of enforcing ceasefire agreements and the broader challenges of conflict resolution. As we analyze the ongoing crisis, it is essential to consider the roles of global powers like the United States and regional actors in shaping the course of the conflict. Viewers, let's end the discussion here and note today's question. In the context of the Israel-Hamas conflict, discuss the challenges in enforcing ceasefire agreements and the role of major global powers in mediating peace. How does international humanitarian law apply in such conflicts?
For more informative content, like, share and subscribe, and do not forget to press the bell icon to get the notifications.